Can you give me like an idea of what kind of games you like or what kind of systems you like in games?
Sure. So I mostly like the multiplayer games where like we get to play with our friends,
Hmm.
and yeah. So I've played games like Counter Strike, then Battle Royale, PUBG, then Apex Legends. Yeah.
Got it. So, okay, let's get on Apex, right?
Yeah.
I like finding different systems, right, in games that make them stand out. So,
Right.
the uh, how basically Counter-Strike introduced a brand new system on an existing game, etc., etc. Same
Right.
Apex also they introduced one system that I found very fascinating in the game, and I was like, how did no one ever think of this? It's that good. So, have you heard about the ping system in Apex?
Yeah. Yeah. I've heard of that.
Okay, can you give me a description of what it does?
Yeah. So basically, in if we consider about the normal battle royale games, there we have to communicate to other players. There we need kind of mic and those kind of things. But with ping system, we can do that without even the actual communication between players. So like if we have a particular item in the game or some kind of loot kind of thing on, then we have enemies, so we can directly mark their locations or those kind of things. We can mark to our teammates, so teammates can reach to that place. They can take that if it's a weapon or anything, and if there are enemies they can reach to that place, so we can mark those things there. So that's really great. Like we don't need to actually communicate between our teammates. We can do it using just the ping system as well.
Got it.
Yeah.
Sounds good. So I think you have an idea of what the system is. Let
Yeah.
me. So if I were to ask you to implement this system in any game, right? Not
Yeah.
just Apex. Let's take
Okay.
Apex as an example. How
Okay.
would you go about setting up such a system?
Uh, yeah.
You can open up like Notepad so you can start taking notes, and I can help you out over there as well.
Yep. So if we consider about the ping system, we can divide it in three parts actually.
Hmm.
So the first part is actually that generating that particular data or message. Like so we have different kind of things there. Like we have enemies, then we have different items or pickups or weapons. So first generating what that message is, that is one part. Like we can take it as generating message there.
Hmm.
Then we can take second part as distributing this to the teammates. So like we have to communicate this message to our teammates. So that is the second part, like
Hmm.
communication with teammates. Then we have third part is to display that uh, location, like so wherever that particular item is or enemy is, so we have to display that to that our teammates, we using some kind of UI or that kind of thing.
Hmm.
So that is the third part we can consider as.
Okay.
Yeah. So considering about the generating message, so firstly there we have our like kind of cursor there, or so firstly we can take kind of an empty object to like we can attach an empty object to a player or that to just get the forward direction,
Okay.
like where. So then we have the location of cursor on the screen.
Hmm.
We can do a raycast from there
Okay.
in the direction where like we have that empty object which will provide us a forward direction. So in that forward direction we can do a raycast. So whenever it will hit to a particular thing, like then there is one more thing, we can use mouse clicks.
Hmm.
Like if we press a middle mouse like middle button, then it will do that raycast only then. Like So if we want to broadcast or tell the teammates that this thing is there, we'll click a middle mouse button, then it will do a raycast from that particular cursor point. Like when it hits to that particular item or enemy, so then it will detect what exactly is there based on that hit result.
Got it. So you mentioned Raycast, right?
Right.
Would you be raycasting something in every frame in this scenario? Or
No, only like when we are holding the mouse button or whenever we press that mouse button, then only we do that raycast.
okay, but if you played Apex, you'll see that the weapon, for example, I see a gun that
Yeah.
I want my teammates to know about. Hey, there's this gun over here in case
Right.
he needs it.
Right. Right.
So I am not clicking on anything in that scenario unless I want to actually ping it. But the gun itself does get highlighted when I'm near it or when I'm looking at it.
Yeah. So in that case, then we'll have to do a continuous raycast there.
Okay. Do you think you okay? Do you know what the drawback of doing a continuous raycast is?
Yeah. So it will be a performance heavy task actually.
Why?
Uh, because like raycasting in raycast it generates a lot of data there, and yeah, it will do every frame there.
Cool. Uh,
Yeah.
so if you were to optimize this, how would you go about optimizing it?
uh, like like instead of using raycasting,
Yes.
yeah, then so we have the cursor position there, we can convert that screen position to actual world position. Yes.
Screen position to actual world position, but how would you determine what the world position is in 3D? Because
uh,
internally, how do you think this calculation works, like converting screen position into actual world position?
yeah, like even that happens with the raycast itself.
Okay,
Yeah.
so you've just figured out a new way to solve the same problem.
Yep. Yep.
Just a new
Yeah.
solution, but internally it's working the same.
Right. Right.
Outside of this, like, do you think there's a way to move around this?
uh, like if we want to highlight those kind of things, then we have to do the raycasting part.
Okay. Will I always be near a gun in all scenarios over here?
No, no.
Okay, then,
Yeah, then we can do one thing. There is like if we have a weapon or anything, we can put a kind of trigger volume there,
hmm,
and whenever we enter that trigger volume, it will do that raycasting part.
okay.
Yeah.
Uh, so would you add that trigger volume to all the objects that are there inside this thing?
No, mostly like those things that we want to highlight, like we have weapon.
Mm, okay. But so again, the weapon, for
Yeah.
example, the entire crate has 10 different objects that you open up, right?
Right.
There's weapons, there's ammo systems, there's gun ammo, there's maybe some scope or other objects that you can attach to your guns, etc. Right?
Right.
So would you add trigger volumes to each of them and then detect when a player is near them?
No, so we'll attach that trigger volume to crate itself, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
Outside of the crate itself, do you think you can optimize it? What if isn't a crate? What if there's some weapons that are dropped by my teammate, for example, in the world, right? And you're trying to ping that to another teammate, for example.
uh, yeah, like if we ping that particular thing, so then we'll like at that particular position we can spawn some UI related thing at that location,
Mhm.
which will be visible to our teammates.
Got it.
Yeah.
Do you think there is another way around this? Because the guns do have some physics to them, right?
Right.
Maybe the player can actually kick them or interact with them if they want to. Ha-
Yeah.
Do you think there is another way around this? Instead
uh,
of me attaching like a trigger volume to each object, maybe I can do something else.
to highlight that particular thing.
Yes.
uh, yep. Like I'm not exactly sure that
Let
way.
me give you
Yeah,
a
yeah.
scenario,
Yep,
right?
yep. Yeah.
So, uh, I I know there's a collider and rigid body, for example, in
Right,
the Unity context
right,
attached to this particular object,
right, yeah,
and I know that I only want to trigger certain stuff when the player itself is in proximity with any of the weapons
right,
or any other object,
yeah,
for example.
yep,
Instead of me attaching like a trigger volume to every weapon, can I not simply attach a sphere to the player itself that tells you if there is anything within this sphere
yeah,
that
yeah,
a rigid body or anything attached to it,
yep, yep, yep,
can
sure.
simply raycast it. Would this system work, or do you think there are problems with this system as well?
So yeah, it's kind of similar to this only. Like we are kind of adding a trigger volume itself there. Just we are using spear there.
So,
Yeah,
which system do you think would be more performant? Adding trigger volumes to each object or adding trigger wall
raycasting.
normal yeah, so raycasting you would anyway do, right?
Yep, yeah,
Just to see if the player is looking in
yeah,
that
right,
particular direction or not.
right, right,
This system you're devising just to determine when the raycast needs to be done instead of
right,
doing
right,
it at all times. Maybe
right,
you only need to do it at certain times, right, when
right,
there's an object within the sphere for the player, for example.
right.
So, do you think which system do you think would work better? Having trigger volumes for each separate object or having one sphere for just the player itself?
Yeah. So having spear for player itself, it will be even better. It will be more performant.
Okay, but
But even in that case, so we have to check. There will be many more things in that collision volume. Like
hmm,
if we attach to player, so it will be even. It will generate even more data, and it will be even more performance. Like it will take more performance there actually.
got it. So, okay, then say
Yeah.
say I have too many other objects that I need to take care of, right? The points, for example, that you were mentioning, that I can go to
Right.
this point, that point, for example.
Yeah.
How will you do that in this?
Uh, like, can you
So, for
repeat it
example,
exactly?
you
Like,
want to go to XYZ point, right? Say you want to tell your players that you want
okay,
to go to this particular location and you want to ping that.
okay, yeah, yeah. So,
Yes.
like, firstly, we have detected now what exactly we have to display there, and we have the position in heat result,
Hmm.
like at what position we want to display. So now, like, to communicate to that message to our teammates, we can use observer pattern there
Hmm.
where we can broadcast that particular event, and with that event so we'll pass our team id to only get to know only to our teammates.
Hmm.
Then we can also pass that hit results or the data that is generated through that raycast, like the position where that has to be displayed.
Okay.
Yeah,
But for this system, would you not be doing raycast in every frame or would it be something else?
like we have detected what we exactly have to ping now. Like we have done the raycasting, now we have the data that what position it is, and we have also detected what object it is, whether
Yeah.
it's enemy.
The
uh,
question is, would the raycasting need to be done every frame now if I want to set up? So the weapons thing is separate now, right? You
yep,
only trigger raycast when there is a weapon around you or something. That problem we discussed. right?
Right.
Now
So,
this is like an open world map, right? Where I
right.
can go anywhere and I
Yep. Yep.
should be able to ping any location.
Right. So as I said, when we do, for example, if we are using middle mouse button click,
Hmm.
so whenever we'll do middle mouse click, at that time only it will do the raycast, and so wherever it hits that particular ray, it will get that data. It will check whether it's enemy or it's weapon or that thing.
Hmm.
Then and also it will have that particular location where exactly it is based on the hit results that we get.
Cool. Got it. So
Yeah.
sounds fair. So in this scenario, you're only raycasting when the player presses the button instead of raycasting
Uh,
every frame.
right.
Am I
Right.
right? When I
Yep.
say
Yep. Right. Right.
cool. Whereas in the other scenario, you want to highlight the weapon and raycast needs to be done every time you're near the weapon.
Right.
Cool.
Yeah.
Now let's another layer to this
Yeah.
raycast.
Yeah.
Now you want to set up a system where, hey, I just spotted an enemy.
Okay. Yeah.
You want to raycast that particular thing. How do you differentiate the enemy environment? Like I detected an enemy from a world environment, for example, contextually.
So we have, so we can use tags or layers. We can check whether it's an enemy layer or whether it's enemy. We can add that tag to that particular enemy. If we have equipments or weapons, then we can add that tag to that thing, and then in that raycast result we can check for that particular tag, and based on that we can tell like whether it's enemy. Then there is also one more thing, like if we hold the middle button, then we can provide some options to mark, like we can let the player choose whatever it is. So we can show different options, like enemy, then weapon, those kind of thing, kind of a UI, which, and then the player will select whatever he wants to display.
Cool. So you mentioned
Yeah.
you would use tags and layers over here.
Yep.
How do tags work internally?
uh like it's a string comparison, like it will compare. So we have the object that raycast has hit,
Hmm.
and it has that variable, tag variable. It will compare to that variable, and like we can detect whether it's enemy or it's weapon in that way.
Cool. So are string operations well performed?
No, no.
Then if they are not going to perform well, uh, do you think there's an alternative to this, or maybe a system that you can use as an alternative to this?
uh, okay. S- so we can do one more thing, like we can, so we have different scripts attached to particular objects, like whether it's enemy or
Hmm.
whether it's weapon. We can typecast that particular object. So we have that other object, then we can typecast it, and if that typecast is successful, we can detect whether it's enemy or it's weapon or those kind of thing.
Okay, but what class would it be in this scenario?
So like in that case, but we have to know what script it has attached. Like for example, if there is an enemy, then we have, for example, if we have a script that is enemy view, then we have to do typecast for that particular enemy view
Got it.
script. Yeah.
So, okay, then don't you think this is as good as doing like a get component operation on a script
Yeah.
or on an
Yep. Yep.
object?
Yep. Yeah.
And is a get component operation performant or is it not performant?
uh yeah, but like in gate component, it will check through all the components. So for smaller objects or smaller things, it's fine. But if the object is very complex and it has very number of components, then it will search through all the components. So in that case, it will be better if we use tag, so it will do only one comparison there. Yep,
What
yep.
I was saying was the don't you think string and get component, there is a better way to do anything other than this.
uh, yeah, like as I said, typecasting is also a good way. Like I have actually used that thing in one of game,
Got
directly typecasting to particular script. So there we are minimizing all the extra comparisons there. We are just checking for that single script there.
okay. Okay. Outside of typecasting, you don't think there's a solution available? Do you know the number of tags that you'll need for this?
Uh, yeah, like there, if you want to increase, it can the number can increase really big. But if we look at the Apex Legend game, there are almost 5 to 6 things only.
Hmm.
So we can distribute this thing in that those tags itself. So there is one enemy, then we have can normal we can mark the normal location, then we can mark the objects different like weapons, those kind of things. So we can just divide it in these tags, this much
Okay.
time. Yeah,
So in your system right now, what I'm guessing is
yeah,
over, overview, like just giving a
yeah,
quick
yeah,
overview, right?
yep,
I recast on that particular object,
yeah,
I typecast that to determine what type of object it is,
yeah,
whether it's a weapon, a location, or like an enemy or something.
yeah,
And then I determine what message needs to be sent.
yep,
This is the message generating part.
right, right,
Okay. So you're basically saying that you take the, I'm guessing there's a base script that's there,
right,
and all the objects that are going to be there will derive from this base script, and
yep,
you
yep,
typecast all these things.
right, right, right.
Okay.
Yeah, like we can also do in that way, like as I said, we can give that option to the player itself. So if the player holds that middle mouse button, will display a UI where player will have different options, whether they want to mark enemy, location, or weapon, and from that they will choose whatever they want to mark.
Yeah. I'll not go into the player option part. Let's
Yeah,
just see how contextually my system can understand stuff, right?
okay, yeah, 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 sure.
Okay, so now that you know that you have like a base class, I'm guessing, and all the other interactable ping objects are going to be derived classes, for example, and you're typecasting this. So far, so good.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay. So you're converting one class into another and then determining what its data is. Do
yeah.
you think I need this conversion at all in the first place?
Like, can you repeat once again? Like, I didn't got
I
exactly.
know that all these objects are derived classes any which ways.
Okay.
Just to determine what kind of object it is, do I really need to typecast it?
Uh, like we can also add some sort of variable to that particular object. Like, so we can, for example, we can define a kind of enum there, and we can create a variable on each of the objects, like whatever we have, and we can just simply check for that particular variable as well.
Okay, so right now you were basically saying you're going to add like an enum inside the base class itself.
Yeah.
Okay, then why would you need typecast?
Yeah, in that case we don't need typecast, we can just simply check for that particular enum itself, and like that will be even more efficiently.
Okay, which system do you think would be more efficient and why?
Yeah, like as I said, the last the enum thing,
Hmm.
that will be even more efficient, that we just have to check for that particular enum only instead of typecasting.
Enum only instead of typecasting. Okay,
Yeah,
so I have like right now say 10 different objects, types of objects that the ping system can work on.
yeah,
Tomorrow the designer comes and says to me there's 100 I need you to do.
right.
What would be the problem over here?
Yeah, it will add that checking part there, the if else statement, those things.
Hmm.
Like we have to check for all the enums there.
Yes. So do you think we can optimize this further?
Uh,
Right now you have like 20 different weapons in the
right,
game, for example, right?
right,
Five different ammo types for each kind of weapon,
right.
and the enemy's position or different areas in the game, whatever.
Yeah.
So now would you simply okay go through all the enums, or do you think there is something wrong with the way stuff is working over here?
Yeah, like if the size grows, it will be difficult.
Hmm. Then
Yeah.
how would you, what would be the problem? Why would the size growing it would make it difficult?
So it will increase the code part as well. Like we have to do the comparisons for all those enums. Like if we have 100 different objects, then we'll have to do the comparison and write that there in the code.
Okay. How would you optimize this?
Yeah. Like we need to do some sort of comparison. Like because for each different object, we're gonna display some different message or different UI there.
Okay. So right now, are you simply looping through all the different enum states like if else, if else, if else, or is it something else?
Uh, there we can do one thing as well. Like as enum, we have based we can get the index as well. Like we
Hmm.
can attach numbers as well with enum. So whenever we find that particular number, in that order, we can also align the UI part or the prefabs that we're gonna display.
I think you're going a step further in this.
Yeah, yeah,
And right now the problem is that I need
got
to,
it.
yeah, continue. Sorry.
Yep. Uh, yeah, I'm not exactly sure how we can optimize it. One.
Right now, can I say that the lookup is the issue for me? If else, if
Yep. Right, definitely.
okay. So if yeah, normally when you want to save on time, you have to sacrifice on space.
Right.
So do you think by using more space, maybe use a structure that takes more space, you can optimize this?
Uh, yeah,
So now you know the index of each different object that you can take, right? Inside your enum, you assign different numbers to each object.
right.
Now you need to find a way
So,
to determine that
uh,
this object belongs to this, sorry,
yeah,
this index belongs to this particular message, for example.
yep. So, yeah, like we can use a data structure here, something like map, those kind of thing. Like there will have a key value
Hmm.
where there and so whenever we do that recasting part, like we have the information of other actor, we can simply check for that key there
Hmm.
and we'll get the value. So it will be very efficient, and even we can add number of objects there. We'll directly get that particular message there. Like we have aligned key value there itself.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah,
Sounds good. Uh,
yeah,
so far, so good. Let's come back to the patterns that we were discussing, right? You
yeah.
mentioned the observer pattern over there.
Right.
What what objects would I need in order to set up this observer pattern system?
Uh,
This one you can write down, I guess. That will give you a better idea. So right
yep.
now you want to set up like an observer pattern for your ping system.
Right. S- Uh, so we'll have an event, or we can say delegate there.
Hmm.
We'll create. Then we have a announce, or like someone will call that particular delegate or
Hmm.
invoke that particular delegate.
Okay.
Yeah, and then the receiver.
who will be the receiver, who will be the invoker, or and who will be the raiser of the event, for example.
Yeah. S- so uh, like whoever the player is, uh, so that will be the invoker to that particular event,
Hmm.
which who will be that pinging that particular enemy or weapon.
Hmm.
He will be the invoker. So he will invoke that particular delegate or event, and all the players will receive that particular event. So now here, as we are passing the team ID as well, like we are playing in squad or something, then we should, like, we cannot only broadcast to only our teammates. Like every player will get notified about that event, so we'll pass some kind of team ID that we have. So based on the team ID, if they are of same from same teammate, then only they'll proceed further on the like other player side.
Hmm.
The rest of the players, like enemies, they will not do anything after from that event, after that event.
Okay. And who would be the receiver, like you were saying?
Yeah, like all the players will get notified. Right.
Okay. So all the players would get notified. Guessing by all players, you mean the teammates or just the players?
uh, Players, all the
Okay.
players.
But when I use my ping system, I normally only use it to
Yeah,
interact with teammates, right?
yeah, for that only, like we are also sending the team ID there
Got it.
in the data.
Okay.
The,
So like you can write down that receivers would be your teammates in this scenario.
yeah,
Cool. Invokers, or who will be the invoker in this scenario?
player itself.
And
Yeah,
what will be there next to event? Now you know that invoker is the player, receiver is the teammate.
yeah, it will be the message that, you know, or the ping,
The message that needs to be generated, basically.
yeah, ping data or that thing. Yeah,
Cool. Okay.
yeah,
So this you I will there be like a centralized event manager in this case
yeah,
who will store all these different event systems?
yep. So there will be a event manager which will have all these events or delegates there.
Hmm.
It will be a singleton. That event manager will be a singleton, so that player will access that singleton or the instance of that class,
Hmm.
and it will invoke that particular delegate there
Okay.
or that event.
Okay. Mm, cool. You mentioned singletons, right? What do you
Yeah,
think is the drawback of using singletons?
uh, yeah. So if we use singleton, we are we can only create a single instance of that particular object first of all,
Hmm.
and uh, it will be accessible to all the other scripts.
Hmm.
Like anyone from anywhere can call that particular function or that particular event
Hmm.
there.
Hmm.
So which can uh, like, so it will lead to misfunctionalities, like anyone can access that particular function there.
Got it. Cool.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
So if you know that singletons are not the best, especially in this scenario, right?
yeah,
If by mistake any other system is able to call the or raise the events,
yeah,
that is probably going to cause some issues down the line for the player as well.
right.
So how do you fix this?
Okay. uh, like if we don't want to use singleton, then we can use kind of interface. So all the observers will derive from a particular interface.
Hmm.
So and we'll have a list in that particular class which will hold all the observers. So we'll add now the all the observers are derived from a particular interface we can add the objects of that particular interface to a list in a
Hmm.
single list. And we can, whenever someone invokes that particular event, we can notify all the observers from that list. In that way, we can also implement.
Got it. So, okay. The interface will be there inside the invoker itself as well, you're saying. You'll be basically deriving from the
S-
interface that you're creating.
So we have an interface which all the observers will derive from.
Hmm.
Then in a separate class we'll have a list of that particular interface.
Hmm.
So all we can all add all the observers to that particular list there.
Got it. And all the observers you'll add to that particular list, then how will the event be raised basically in this scenario?
Yeah. So we'll have a function in that particular class which will run through all the list items, and it will call the functions. So in the interface we'll have that particular function that the something has pinged. It will call that function,
Okay, so my
that interface.
observers, or I'm guessing just the player and the teammates, they'll derive from this interface you're saying, right?
Right, right.
So now that you know that you want to derive from this system, uh,
Yeah.
where would you store this list that you're saying of all the players that are there, or all the observers that are there in your game?
Like we'll have separate a manager kind of script which
Okay.
will.
And how will these players access all this data?
So in that interface we can pass the data, like
Okay.
we'll calling the. So when we'll run through that list, we'll calling the function from that particular interface. Like as these all observers are derived from that particular interface, they'll have that function.
Got it. So
Yeah.
you'll be the list. I'm basically asking you, you're going to add that list inside the interface itself.
No, no, no. It will be in different class.
Okay. And what class will that be?
Uh, yeah, it's kind of a manager class, we
Okay.
can say.
Okay. How will these players get access? Sorry, I don't know. It's like a repeating question, but
No, 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 no issues. Yeah.
yeah. How will these players get access to this class? I did not understand that.
Okay, sure. So,
This function basically that gives them the ability saying, hey, please add me to the list of observers that you have. I'm guessing the function is doing that, right?
so we have a one interface which will have one function, like that particular event.
Is that like a separate interface
Yeah,
itself?
yeah, it's a separate part.
Cool. Okay, then it makes sense. Okay.
Yeah, and all the observers will be derived from that interface. So
Hmm.
now all the observers have that particular function.
Okay, cool.
Then, yeah, we'll add to that list whenever the object is created. We can like add to that particular list, and now as every observer has that function from the interface, we can run through that list and we can call that particular function.
Okay, then why do I need an interface to create the list wala class in this scenario? What is the objective of using an interface?
Because we have to make sure that everyone has that particular function there.
Okay, everyone has that particular function there. Okay, so that interface, how
Yeah.
will all the other objects get access to the object in order to add themselves to the list?
Yeah, we have to provide the reference of that particular manager script.
How will you provide the reference to that manager script?
Like, so we are creating this all the players or enemies from a particular kind of service class,
Hmm.
which like there we can have the reference of this list or manager list that
Okay.
we are going to create. Yeah.
Okay.
And whenever new player is created, we can add the reference of that to that particular list from
Okay.
the service class.
So what kind of function is called when a new player is created or
Uh,
new object is created?
in the that service class, we have a reference for this list.
Hmm.
Now, when we create a new object in that function itself, we can add that object to the list.
Works. Cool.
Yeah.
Cool. I think that's about it.